A Florida highway, late at night. Blue lights hit the back window. An officer walks up and says, "Roll the window down all the way. Let me see your ID. Where were you born?" Then a second agent appears near the passenger side. Not local police, federal immigration enforcement. Now your heart starts racing because most people have no idea what to say in that moment. Do you answer every question? Do you stay silent? Can they force you to hand over documents? And what happens if you say the wrong thing too fast? Today, we're breaking down 3 simple sentences that can protect your rights during encounters involving immigration enforcement in states like California or Florida. Not magic words, not internet myths, just calm, legally safer phrases that help you avoid making the situation worse. If knowing your rights matters to you, subscribe now. Share this with someone who needs it and drop your opinion below. Because one sentence can accidentally give officers information they were never legally entitled to get in the first place. And one nervous mistake can turn a simple encounter into detention, questioning, or search that might have been avoidable. The first mistake people make is talking too much too early. The moment officers approach, many people start explaining everything. "I'm just going home. I don't have anything illegal. I was born in..." And that's exactly what investigators are trained to listen for. Not just answers, inconsistencies, nervous details, contradictions. Remember this, officers often already know more than they're telling you. Questions are sometimes designed to get you talking freely before you understand whether you're detained, questioned voluntarily, or under arrest. That leads to the first sentence. Am I free to leave or am I being detained? Simple, calm, respectful, but legally important, because this question forces clarity. If they say you are free to leave, you may choose to leave calmly without continuing the conversation. If they say you are detained, then the situation changes, and you know this is no longer voluntary. Listen carefully to how this sounds in real life. "Sir, where were you born?" "Officer, am I free to leave or am I being detained?" Just answer the question first. Respectfully, am I free to leave? Notice what that does. You're not arguing, you're not running, you're not resisting. You are identifying whether the encounter is voluntary or not. That matters because many people unknowingly stay in voluntary conversations that later become evidence against them. Now here's the second major trap. People confuse compliance with consent. Those are not the same thing. An officer may give lawful commands. You generally should not physically resist those commands on the roadside. But that does not mean you must verbally agree with searches or questioning beyond what the law requires in that situation. So the second sentence is critical. I do not consent to any searches. This sentence matters because courts sometimes look at whether a person voluntarily gave permission, and people accidentally give consent all the time. "Go ahead, I've got nothing to hide." "Sure, check whatever you want." That can completely change the legal situation later. Now listen to how a calm response sounds. "Open the trunk for me." "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." "So you're refusing?" "I'm not resisting, I just do not consent to searches." That second part is extremely important. I'm not resisting. Why? Because you are separating non-consent from physical interference. You never want to escalate physically on the roadside, even if you believe the search is unlawful. Roadside arguments are dangerous places to try to win constitutional debates. The safer approach is usually verbal clarity, calm behavior, and documenting everything later through legal channels if necessary. And here's another important distinction. Laws involving identification can vary depending on the situation and the state. For example, during a lawful traffic stop, drivers are generally required to provide license and registration information. Passengers may have different obligations depending on circumstances. Immigration-related authority can also depend on federal law, warrants, location, and the nature of the stop. That's why this video is educational only, not personal legal advice. But regardless of state, arguing aggressively almost never helps. Which brings us to the third sentence. I choose to remain silent, and I want a lawyer. This is the sentence people wait too long to use. Instead, they keep talking because they think they can explain themselves out of the situation. But stress changes how people speak. People guess dates wrong, names wrong, addresses wrong, and investigators are trained to keep conversations going, especially after someone becomes emotional or defensive. Here's a realistic example. Where were your parents born? How long have you been in the country? Who else lives with you? At this point, many people panic and start oversharing. Instead, a calm response sounds like this: I choose to remain silent, and I want the lawyer. Not rude, not hostile, just clear. And every part matters. I choose to remain silent tells officers you are invoking that right intentionally. And I want the lawyer signals you do not wish to continue questioning without legal counsel. Now, does that mean officers instantly stop talking? Not always. They may continue asking questions. They may pressure you conversationally. They may say things like, if you've done nothing wrong, why not answer? This will go easier if you cooperate. But remember something important. Silence after invoking your rights is usually more effective than arguing about your rights repeatedly. A lot of people sabotage themselves because they keep talking after saying they want the lawyer. That weakens the protection they were trying to invoke. Now let's talk about behavior, because words alone are not enough. Fast movements create danger. Reaching suddenly into pockets, bags, or under seats can escalate tension immediately. If you need to reach for identification, say what you are doing first. My wallet is in my right pocket. My registration is in the glove compartment. Slow movements matter. Calm tone matters. Body language matters. Another huge mistake is trying to educate officers during the stop. People start yelling legal terminology they learned online. You're violating the Fourth Amendment. You have no jurisdiction over me. I know my rights. That usually increases tension instead of helping. The roadside is rarely the place to debate constitutional law. Your goal is not to win an argument in the moment. Your goal is to get through the encounter as safely and intelligently as possible. And one more warning: never lie about identity or provide false documents. Exercising the right to remain silent is very different from making false statements. Those are not the same thing legally. Now let's put all three sentences together in one realistic flow. Where were you born? Officer, am I free to leave or am I being detained? You're being detained. Okay, I choose to remain silent, and I want the lawyer. Then step out of the vehicle. I will comply. I do not consent to any searches. Notice the pattern: calm, short, clear. No arguing, no sudden movements, no volunteering information, and no physical resistance. That framework protects people far better than emotional reactions ever do. Because the biggest mistake during enforcement encounters is forgetting that officers are observing everything. Not just your words, your tone, your movements, your nervous explanations, your contradictions. Everything. So remember the SAFER framework. Stay calm, comply with lawful commands, do not physically resist, do not consent to searches, ask whether you are free to leave, remain silent when appropriate, and request a lawyer clearly if questioning becomes serious. And understand that laws can vary depending on facts, location, immigration status, warrants, and the type of stop involved. The smartest move is usually controlled behavior, not confrontation. And in the next video, we're breaking down the 5 phrases officers use during traffic stops that sound casual, but are actually designed to get consent, admissions, or probable cause without most drivers realizing it.